De'Eric obviously has a lot of talent. Multidimensional player. We get that. He just doesn't. It's very rare for him to make the big mistake. He doesn't put it on the ground a lot. He doesn't throw into double coverage, and he doesn't just. He has a lot of poise along with the presence. How do you rattle him when you know that? Yes, I mean teams have shown ways to slow him, but he's not going to help you too much. It seems like. I guess just how do you scheme for that? Thanks.
Yeah. So, Tim, I don't know if we've seen him make many mistakes. I think you're right. I think the key thing is to try to limit the big play opportunities for him, and see if he can make throws accurately over and over and over again. Then you got to factor in the run game with him. So, I think some people have fooled him sometimes in coverage, but the problem, honestly, when you fool him in coverage is he tucks it down and starts running. And what's scarier, him throwing a ball to the flat or him running? So I think he's a tremendous player. I got a lot of respect for him, and it's gonna be a hard day.
Thanks, Coach. Good to see you,
man. Yeah, man. Good to see you too.
All right. Is there anybody else out there with a question for Coach Bateman? Please use the raise hand function. All right, here they come. Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Brevin Jordan is one of the better tight ends in college football. How do you deal with a guy like that who kind of brings a different level of athlete to the position?
Yeah, so I think both our tight ends are tremendous. We've played against some really good tight ends this year, and I don't think we've played against two that are as good as these two. So, Brevin, last year he got after us a little bit in the pass game. I think he's improved in the run game tremendously. Last year we felt like when he got in the run block and, to block in the run game, we could survive. And I feel like now he's become a really good run blocker also. He's a tremendous talent as a wide receiver. I think you have to treat him like a wide receiver. I think the thought of like one of our linebackers covering him, my gut is Coach Diaz likes that a lot better than we do. So I think you've got to treat him like a DB. And the problem is you treat him like a DB, and then all of a sudden you treat him like a receiver. All of a sudden you got, too many DBs in the game. So he presents a real challenge like all great tight ends do. And we certainly have to be aware. They're doing a really good job, I think, a much better job, honestly, of getting him in position to make plays. He's moving around a lot more. So our kids have to ID him and know where he is, because he is a huge part of their offense.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, Adam Smith, go ahead.
Hey, Jay. You alluded to it earlier, just in your first answer, but of the quarterbacks you faced that would be considered like elusive runners, is De'Eric different in that if you take away one thing, the other thing can beat you just as badly? Is that it's probably a terrible way to say it, but you probably know what I'm saying.
I think with King, the thing that scares you is like when they run routes and you go cover them, all of a sudden, like that's the scariest play, because then he tucks it down and starts running vertical and he can roll. So it's not like some quarterbacks are elusive and they buy time. Ian Book was great at that. And Ian Book can really run too. But like I think when King gets into your second level, like he runs away from people, and that to me that's the scariest part.
What's the industry term? What's the insider term for a guy like that when you're game planning and stuff that would make for a great thing to put in a story, Jay?
He's a pain in the tail. I don't know. Good recruit. That's what he is. It's a good recruit. Like dual threat. I think all those things. Like the thing that's most impressive to me about him is, and Tim asked the first question, like he's throwing the ball at a really high level right now. And I don't know at the start of the season if myself and the other D coordinators in our league would have thought that was the case, but he's a really complete player.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go over to Gregory Hall, please.
Hey, Jay. Going further on that, what did you take away from the Notre Dame game and not being able to bring down Ian Book as much as you would like? And how can you adjust that game plan from then to trying to get De'Eric King on the ground more?
I think it's similar in that we wanted to try to keep both of them in the pocket. We didn't really want, I think you have to be careful how much, what kind of blitzes you run and what kind of coverages you play behind your blitzes, because if they do escape on you, then there's a lot of space, right? So, I think against both of them, you want to try to, create keep them in the pocket and try to kind of throw a vice around them. The thing I took away from against Ian Book was that when we did that, we were really successful, and when we didn't, we weren't. And so I think our kids understand that too. So I think that'll be a big piece of it moving forward is gap integrity and pass rush integrity against guys like this. I think that's going to be really a big deal.
And Mac Brown said after the game Saturday that he thought Des Evans had his best game against Western. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think really for the last handful of games, he's kind of every week it's kind of been, he's taken the steps you expect to see. But we're going to need him to play a lot this week.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go over to CL Brown.
Jay, I know you spoke a little bit about Tony Grimes last week, but I was just wondering, since he made that first start against Notre Dame and this few weeks of good examples, just what improvements have you seen from him? I think it seems like it's different going from a guy who's just being expected to be a backup and maybe come in situationally to now him having to step up and be a starter and prepare as such and execute as such. So I was wondering if you've actually seen any change, or has he been kind of the same all season?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like Tony early on was preparing really well. And I think since he's became the starter, it's become, like before I came down here, he just texted me like, Coach, how should we play this route? So, he's working really hard and preparing really hard. I mean, I think the main thing with Tony is he's a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger now. And now that he has played, the confidence level is pretty high, so, from the get-go, I felt like that, that he was a kid who had the mindset to play early. And I think it's these last two games, I think he's played pretty well.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right. We will close up today with Ross Martin.
Hey, Jay, I was wondering what do you think what areas of the defense improved the most from after the Wake Forest game to now? And what areas have you seen them grow and be better?
I think our communication's been better. I think much like myself, our kids were really disappointed with the Wake Forest game. And I think they realized why every snap in practice, every chance we get to meet, I think our kids learned after Wake Forest that like they can't just say, hey, the 45 minutes I get with Coach Bateman every day is enough. And I feel like our level of preparation, individually on their own has improved. I think physically, I feel like our front has done a better job. And really against Wake Forest, I thought our front did a good job with, but I feel like we've set better edges in the run game. And that's hard to do. Western Carolina gave us a bunch of funky formations but to set edges against Notre Dame is hard. I mean, their tackles and their tight ends are really good players. So I feel like we've made improvements there. And I feel like that's going forward. We can hang our hats on our fundamentals of run defense better. And I feel like that's where we've made the most steps.
Great. I'm going to have to ask about the younger players as well from the Western Carolina game. You've already mentioned Grimes and Evans. Anybody else that really stood out to you, maybe in linebacker room or the defensive line, the young guys, freshman, redshirt freshman?
I thought Cayman Rucker played really well. He was our player of the game, played a lot, which was good. I thought when Eugene Asante went in, we didn't miss a beat. I thought he played really well and we kind of wanted to get him in with some of the older guys, because we kind of think a year from now that's going to be the case. And I thought he did a really good job of kind of being out there with those guys and functioning with the first unit. Tony did well, didn't get challenged much. I thought Kevin Hester played really well. So I think we had a lot of young kids play and play well. I was excited about those guys.
Is Hester and Miles Murphy and Clyde Pender kind of rotational guys now in a sense that they'll play meaningful minutes in first half type situations?
Yeah, I think at this point we're playing all of them, pretty much. I mean, Ray plays the most, Tamari plays the second most probably, but I think all those guys are going to play a pretty good, decent, I would think their snaps are going to all be in the same neighborhood.